Captain Doyen stood on the bridge of the eternal dawn and watched the stars pass by. His hand shook slightly, though he tried to hide it. After 30 years of waiting, humanity was finally going to meet the Galactic Council. Everything they had worked for led to this moment. "Captain, we're approaching Axis Prime," said Lieutenant Quan from the navigation station. The young officer's voice was steady, but Doyen could see the excitement in his eyes. Beside Doyen, Chief Diplomat Hana reviewed her notes one more time. She had prepared for this meeting her entire life. Her tablet showed speeches, cultural data, and scientific achievements. Everything that proved humanity deserved a place among the stars. "They're going to love us," Hana said softly, more to herself than anyone else. How could they not? Doyen wanted to believe her. He really did. The council station appeared ahead. It was massive, larger than anything humans had ever built. Crystalline towers spiraled outward from a central sphere that glowed with strange light. Ships from dozens of species moved around it like fish in an ocean. "Receiving docking instructions," Quan reported. "Bay 7. The eternal dawn glided into the station. Doyen had never felt so small. Every surface around them seemed to pulse with technology humanity barely understood. Alien ships that looked like living creatures floated past. One vessel appeared to be made entirely of water held together by invisible forces. When the docking clamps locked into place, Hana stood and smoothed her uniform. "Ready, Captain?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Doyen replied. They walked through corridors filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some had multiple limbs. Others floated in containment fields. A few looked almost human, which somehow made them more unsettling. None of them looked at the human delegation. They simply moved past as if Doyen and his crew were invisible. The council chamber was even more impressive than the station exterior. It was a vast dome where 12 massive seats formed a circle. Each seat held a representative from one of the founding species. At the center, a platform waited for those seeking council judgment. Doyen and Hana stepped onto the platform. It rose into the air, lifting them to eye level with the council members. "Welcome, humans," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The translation device in Doyen's ear turned the alien words into something he could understand. "I am Counselor Vexthun of the Dominion Collective. Speak your purpose." Hana stepped forward. Her voice was clear and confident. "Honored council members, we come representing Earth and all humanity. We bring greetings, friendship, and a request to join the galactic community. We have much to offer and much to learn." She activated a holographic display. Images of Earth appeared in the air. Cities, forests, oceans, mountains. Then came human achievements. Art, music, medicine, technology. Children laughing. People from every nation joining hands. It was beautiful. For a moment, Doyen thought he saw something like interest in some of the council members' faces. Then Vexthun spoke again. "Fascinating. However, the council has reviewed your species extensively. We have concerns." The hologram changed. Now it showed human history, wars, weapons, destruction. But something was wrong. The images were altered, made worse than reality. Dates were changed. Numbers were inflated. Events that never happened appeared as historical fact. "Wait," Hana interrupted. "Those records are incorrect. We've had conflicts, yes, but—" "Silence," Vexthun commanded. "The evidence is clear. Humanity possesses dangerous, aggressive tendencies. Our projections indicate that within 3 generations your species will pose an existential threat to galactic stability." Doyen felt ice in his stomach. "What are you saying?" "The council has voted," Vexthun continued. Doyen noticed that the vote had apparently happened before they even arrived. "Humanity is deemed incompatible with galactic civilization. Preventive measures must be taken." "Preventive measures?" Hana's voice rose in panic. "What does that mean?" A different counselor spoke, this one resembling a giant insect. "It means extinction. The council will sterilize your homeworld within 72 hours. It is unfortunate but necessary." The platform began descending. Doyen grabbed Hana's arm. "We need to leave now." Security drones appeared from slots in the walls. Dozens of them moving toward the human delegation with mechanical precision. Doyen's crew members who had been waiting near the chamber entrance started running. "This way," Lieutenant Quan shouted. He had somehow found an emergency exit. The crew sprinted through service corridors while alarms blared behind them. They reached their shuttle in the docking bay. Doyen threw himself into the pilot seat and began emergency launch procedures. Warning lights flashed everywhere. The station's defensive systems were powering up. "Captain, the Eternal Dawn," Quan said, pointing at their main ship through the viewport. "We can't reach it," Doyen said through gritted teeth. "Hold on." The shuttle blasted out of the docking bay just as energy weapons opened fire. Doyen flew like he had never flown before, weaving through the station's defense grid. Explosions bloomed around them. One blast clipped their wing, sending the shuttle spinning. "I need to warn Earth," Doyen said, fighting to stabilize their flight. He opened a communication channel and began recording. "This is Captain Doyen of the Eternal Dawn. The Council has condemned humanity to extinction. They're sending warships. Protocol Exodus. I repeat, Protocol Exodus. They're coming." He sent the message through every frequency he could access. Then he watched in horror as Council warships appeared around Earth on his long-range sensors, hundreds of them emerging from faster-than-light travel. "No," Hana whispered. No, the Eternal Dawn exploded behind them. The crew members they had left behind died instantly. Doyen felt tears on his face but kept flying. Their shuttle was small and fast. Maybe the Council would think everyone had died on the main ship. On the sensors, Earth began to glow. Orbital bombardment had started. Cities that had stood for thousands of years vanished in seconds. The planet's defense systems fired back, but they were hopelessly outmatched. It was like watching ants try to fight a boot. "Where do we go?" Quan asked quietly. Doyen set course for the outer solar system. Earth had hidden facilities out there. Asteroid bases built in secret over the past decades, just in case humanity ever needed them. He had thought it was paranoia. Now he understood it was survival. "We go where they won't look," Doyen said. "We hide, we survive, and someday somehow we make them pay for this." Behind them, Earth burned. 8 billion people died while the Council watched. They had decided humanity was too dangerous to exist. They had made their judgment. They would live to regret it. Mino crawled through the ventilation shaft with a wrench in one hand and a flashlight in the other. The metal was cold against his skin, and he could hear the hissing of air leaks somewhere ahead. Another repair job. There was always another repair job. "How's it looking?" Yuna's voice crackled through his radio. His mother was on the bridge of Haven 7, monitoring systems as always. "Found the leak," Minho replied. "Give me 10 minutes. He had been born in this asteroid base 23 years ago. He had never seen Earth except in old videos. His mother showed them to him when he was young, before she got too sick to leave her quarters. Blue skies, green forests, oceans that went on forever. It seemed like a dream world. Haven 7 was not a dream. It was gray metal corridors, recycled air that always smelled slightly off, and the constant knowledge that one system failure could kill everyone aboard. 800 people lived here, hiding inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the outer solar system. There were dozens of other bases like this one, maybe 100. Nobody knew exactly. Communication between bases was dangerous. The Council still had patrol ships looking for human survivors. They thought they had killed everyone 50 years ago. They were wrong, but only barely. Out of 8 billion people, fewer than 8 million had escaped. Most died in the first days. The lucky ones made it to the hidden bases. Minho sealed the leak and started crawling back. His radio beeped. "All personnel to the main assembly hall," Commander Suman announced. Immediately. That was never good news. The assembly hall was the largest space in Haven 7, which meant it could fit about 200 people if everyone squeezed together. When Minho arrived, it was already packed. People looked worried. Emergency meetings usually meant supply problems or Council patrol ships getting too close. Commander Suman stood on a small platform at the front. She was 70 years old and had been running Haven 7 since it was first established. Her face was lined with decades of stress and her hair had gone completely white, but her eyes were still sharp. "A scout ship returned this morning," Suman said without preamble. "They have bad news. The Council is planning to harvest resources from this solar system starting in 6 months. They're bringing mining operations to the asteroid belt." Silence fell over the crowd. Then someone shouted, "That means they'll find us." "Yes," Suman said simply. "They will find all of the bases. We've hidden for 50 years, but our time is up." Panic spread through the hall. People started talking over each other. Some demanded they flee to another system. Others said they should surrender and beg for mercy. A few suggested they should die on their own terms rather than let the Council execute them. "Quiet," Suman's voice cut through the noise. There's more. Taeyang, come up here. An old man climbed onto the platform. Minho recognized him as the chief scientist, though Taeyang rarely left his lab. He looked tired but also strangely excited. We have another option, Taeyang said. His voice was rough from years of breathing recycled air. During the fall, some human scientists managed to steal Council technology. Data cores, weapon systems, engine designs. For 50 years we've been studying them, reverse engineering them, improving them. He activated a holographic display. A ship appeared in the air above the crowd. It was small and sleek, nothing like the bulky vessels the Council used. We've built prototypes, Taeyang continued. 37 strike craft equipped with stealth systems the Council doesn't know we have. Weapons that can punch through their shields. We've also developed AI targeting systems that are faster than anything in their fleet. You're talking about fighting them, someone said from the crowd. That's suicide. Maybe, Taeyang admitted. But it's also our only chance. If we run, they'll chase us down eventually. If we surrender, they'll execute us. But if we fight, if we hit them hard enough, we might survive. Yuna's voice came from near the back. She had left her post to attend the meeting. How many ships can we field? Across all the hidden bases? Taeyang paused. Maybe 300 combat vessels. We've been building them in secret for years, waiting for the moment we'd need them. Minho felt something stirring in his chest. It felt like hope, though he barely recognized it. 300 ships against the entire Council fleet? We won't fight the entire fleet, a new voice said. Jiho stepped forward from the crowd. He was one of Haven 7's best pilots, young but brilliant. We fight smart. Hit and run, target their supply lines, make them bleed for every inch of space. Commander Suman raised her hand for silence. This is not a decision I can make alone. We all have to choose. Stay hidden and hope they miss us. Flee and live as refugees forever. Surrender and die with dignity. Or fight and die with purpose. She looked around at the assembled survivors. I'm calling for a vote. Everyone gets a say. This is about all of our futures. The debate lasted hours. Some people argued that fighting was pointless. The Council had destroyed Earth with ease. What chance did a few hundred survivors have? Others said they had nothing left to lose. If humanity was going to die anyway, they should die fighting. Minho listened to all of it. Then he thought about his mother, who had spent her whole life keeping Haven 7 running. He thought about the videos of Earth, the home he would never see. He thought about 8 billion people who died because the Council decided they were inconvenient. When the vote came, Minho raised his hand for war. So did almost everyone else. The count was overwhelming. Out of 800 people in Haven 7, 743 voted to fight. Similar results came in from other bases over the next few days. The human survivors had made their choice. They would not go quietly into extinction. Preparations began immediately. The hidden shipyards that had been building vessels in secret for decades went into overdrive. Pilots trained in combat simulators. Engineers improved weapon systems. Scientists worked on new technologies that might give them an edge. Minho volunteered for combat training. He had been a maintenance worker his whole life, but he could learn to fight. Everyone could learn. They had 6 months before the Council arrived. Yuna pulled him aside one evening. She looked even thinner than usual and her hands shook. The sickness was getting worse. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. Yes, I do, Minho replied. If I don't fight, what was the point of you keeping me alive all these years? She smiled sadly. The point was that you lived. That's enough. Not for me, Minho said. They took everything from us. Our home, our people, our future. I want them to know we didn't just disappear. I want them to know we fought back. Yuna pulled him into a hug. Your father would be proud of you. He died defending the evacuation ships during the fall. He saved hundreds of people, including us. Minho hadn't known that. His mother never talked about his father. Make it count, Yuna whispered. Whatever happens, make it count. 6 months later, Council mining ships arrived in the asteroid belt. They came expecting to find rocks and ice. Instead, they found humanity waiting for them. The first mining vessel exploded before its crew even knew they were under attack. Human strike craft appeared from nowhere, their stealth systems hiding them until the last second. Then came the weapons fire, tearing through Council shields like they were made of paper. The second vessel tried to run. It didn't make it far. By the time the third vessel managed to send a distress signal, all of the mining ships were destroyed. Not one survived. Minho sat in the cockpit of his strike craft, hands steady on the controls. Around him, debris from council ships drifted through space. He had just killed people. Aliens, yes, but still living beings. He felt no guilt. All ships returned to base, Commander Suman's voice came through the radio. Well done. But this was just the beginning. Now they know we're here. Minho turned his ship toward home. The council would come with warships next time. Real military vessels, not mining equipment. The survivors had announced their existence to the galaxy. Now came the hard part. Now came the war. Jiho flew through the debris field near Jupiter's moon Ganymede, with his engines at minimum power. His ship, the Phantom, was almost invisible to sensors. Almost, but not quite. If the council monitoring station spotted him, this mission would end before it started. Phantom Leader, you're clear. Yunji's voice came through his headset. She was coordinating the attack from Haven 7, watching sensor readings and plotting attack vectors. Station defenses are facing the wrong direction. Copy that, Jiho replied. He signaled to the 11 other strike craft following him. They had been practicing this attack for 3 months. Now it was time to see if they could actually pull it off. The monitoring station orbited Ganymede like a mechanical moon. It was huge, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. 20 council personnel staffed it, watching for any signs of human activity in the outer solar system. They had no idea that human ships were already in position around them. All ships, attack pattern Delta, Jiho commanded. Hit them fast and hard. No survivors. He pushed his throttle forward and the Phantom leaped ahead. The other ships followed, emerging from hiding spots among the debris. Their weapons charged up, energy building in capacitors that human engineers had improved far beyond council designs. The monitoring station's defenses activated, but too slowly. Human weapons fire tore into the structure before its shields could fully power up. Explosions blossomed across the station's hull. Atmosphere vented into space. Jiho targeted the communication array. His missile struck dead center, silencing the station before it could call for help. Around him, the other ships systematically destroyed weapons emplacements, power generators, and engine sections. 3 minutes after the attack began, the monitoring station was crippled. It tumbled through space, dead and dark. Boarding teams, move in, Jiho ordered. Transport shuttles appeared from behind Ganymede. They latched onto the station's hull and cut through airlocks. Human soldiers in combat suits flooded inside. They found 19 council personnel alive, trapped in sealed compartments. The soldiers took them prisoner. More importantly, they reached the station's data core before its security systems could wipe it. Taiyang had designed special programs for this. The humans downloaded everything. Council fleet movements, communication codes, patrol routes, supply schedules. Everything the survivors needed to plan their next moves. Got it, one of the tech specialists reported. Data is secure. Recommend we get out of here before reinforcements arrive. Jiho agreed. The humans salvaged everything useful from the station, planted demolition charges, and evacuated. The Phantom was the last ship to leave. Jiho triggered the charges and watched the monitoring station explode into an expanding cloud of debris. All ships return to base, he said. Mission successful. When they returned to Haven 7, Commander Suman was waiting with Taiyang and Admiral Minho. Minho had been promoted after the mining ship attack. At 23, he was the youngest admiral in human history. Of course, humanity's military now consisted entirely of desperate survivors, so ranks didn't mean much. The data is incredible, Taiyang said, reviewing the stolen files. The Council's communication protocols haven't been updated in 200 years. They're completely predictable. And their fleet movements? He laughed, a sound of disbelief. They're broadcasting everything in the clear. They don't even bother encrypting military communications. They're arrogant, Minho said. They think nobody would dare attack them. That arrogance is our weapon, Yunji added. She had been studying council psychology and politics for years. We need to use it. Over the next few weeks, news of the monitoring station's destruction spread through council space. Emergency sessions were called. Councilors argued over what to do. Some insisted it was pirates or rebels from other species. They refused to believe humanity could have survived. But Vexthun, the counselor who had ordered Earth's destruction, knew better. He demanded a military response. The council authorized a battle fleet to travel to the Sol system and eliminate the human remnant once and for all. The humans learned about this plan from intercepted communications. They had weeks to prepare. They're sending 47 warships, Minho said at the strategy meeting. More firepower than we've ever faced. If we fight them directly, we'll lose. Then we don't fight them directly, Jiho suggested. We make them come to us. We choose the battlefield. Sora, a young woman who had been working on communications and propaganda, spoke up. There's something else we should do. We should tell the galaxy what really happened to Earth. She had been analyzing the data core from the monitoring station. Buried in the files was something incredible. The original records from humanity's council appearance 50 years ago. The real records before Vexton altered them. We can prove they lied, Sora said. We can show everyone that the council committed genocide based on fabricated evidence. Will anyone care? Someone asked. Some will, Yunji answered. The council rules through fear and propaganda. If we crack that facade, if we show they're capable of such evil, it will cause problems for them. They put Sora in charge of the propaganda effort. She crafted messages and broadcasts that told humanity's story. She included footage from the fall, survivor testimonies, and most importantly, proof that Vexton had manufactured the evidence against humanity. These broadcasts went out on every frequency the humans could access. They couldn't be sure anyone was listening, but they had to try. Meanwhile, Minho prepared for the council fleet's arrival. The humans had nearly 300 combat ships now. They hid throughout the solar system, in the asteroid belt near Jupiter's moons, even in the radiation zones around the gas giant where council sensors couldn't penetrate. The council fleet arrived 3 weeks later. 47 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Mars. They were old vessels, museum pieces by council standards, but each one carried more firepower than the entire human fleet combined. All ships, hold position, Minho commanded. Let them come to us. The council fleet moved deeper into the solar system. Their commander was confident. His sensors showed nothing. The humans must be hiding near Earth, he thought. He would find them and finish what Vexthun had started 50 years ago. His fleet passed through the asteroid belt. Still nothing. They reached Jupiter's orbit. That's when everything went wrong. Human ships appeared from everywhere at once. From behind asteroids, from inside debris fields, from Jupiter's radiation zones. Hundreds of small, fast vessels that the council sensors had completely missed. The council commander tried to react, but human tactics were unlike anything he had trained for. The human ships didn't line up for traditional combat. They swarmed. They used coordinated attacks with AI systems directing fire to exploit weaknesses in council shields. They targeted specific systems on each warship, crippling engines, knocking out weapons, destroying communications. The Battle of Sol lasted 3 days. The council fleet tried to retreat on the second day, but human ships blocked every escape route. They had planned this perfectly. Every council warship was trapped. Jiho's squadron destroyed the council flagship on the third day. The remaining council ships tried to surrender, but Minho had given orders, no mercy. The council had shown none to Earth. By the end, all 47 council warships were destroyed. Wreckage drifted through space near Jupiter. Not a single council crew member survived. The humans had taken casualties too. 41 ships lost, over 300 people dead. But they had won. Minho broadcast a message on all council frequencies. This is Admiral Minho of the Human Survivor Fleet. The council tried to erase us from existence. They failed. We survived. We remember. And now we're coming for you. Tell Vexithun that humanity sends its regards. He closed the channel and looked at his crew. They were exhausted, traumatized, grieving for the friends they had lost. But they were also alive. They had fought the council and won. What now, sir? His second-in-command asked. Minho thought about Earth burning in his memory. He thought about 8 billion dead. He thought about the survivors who had lived in fear for 50 years. Now we make them pay, he said. Now we take the fight to them. The war had just begun. Commander Suman lay in her bed at Haven 7, her breathing shallow and painful. She was dying. 83 years old. A lifetime spent in hiding and war, and now her body was finally giving up. But before she died, she had one more piece of advice to give. Minho and General Hyun stood beside her bed. Hyun was young and aggressive, eager to take human warships directly into council space and burn their worlds. Minho was more cautious, but even he wanted revenge. Don't attack them directly, Suman whispered. Her voice was weak but clear. You'll lose. The Council has thousands of worlds, millions of ships. You have 300 vessels and 8 million people. Then what do we do? Yun asked impatiently. We can't just hide forever. You don't hide, Suman said. You spread. You teach others to resist. The Council has enemies everywhere. Find them, arm them, help them fight. She coughed and Minho brought her water. When she could speak again, she continued. The Council rules through fear. Break that fear. Show the galaxy that the Council can be beaten. Suman died 3 days later. They gave her a military funeral, spacing her body into the void with full honors. Then they followed her last advice. Wu Jin, a former teacher who had spent decades studying Council politics, helped develop the plan. He identified species that the Council had oppressed. Client worlds forced to provide resources, protectorates stripped of autonomy, entire civilizations crushed under Council authority. There are hundreds of species who hate the Council, Wu Jin explained at the strategy meeting, but they've never had the weapons or knowledge to fight back. We can change that. Hana, the old diplomat who had survived the fall of Earth, agreed to lead this effort. She was 82 now, kept alive by advanced medicine the humans had stolen from Council technology. Her body was frail, but her mind was sharp as ever. I couldn't save Earth with words, Hana said. Maybe I can free others with actions. The human fleet scattered across the galaxy. They moved in small groups, avoiding major Council strongholds. Their targets were the forgotten corners of Council space, where oppressed species suffered in silence. The first species they contacted were the Kelvin people. The Council had invaded their world 50 years ago and turned them into a client state. Kelvin resources went to Council worlds. Kelvin workers labored in Council factories. Kelvin children were taken for education that was really indoctrination. When Hana's ship appeared in orbit over Kelvin Prime, the local government panicked. They thought it was a Council inspection. Instead, Hana broadcast a simple message. We are humanity. The Council tried to erase us. They failed. We're offering you a choice. Stay slaves or fight for your freedom. We'll provide weapons, training, and support. The decision is yours. The Kelvin leadership met in secret. Some were afraid. The Council would punish any rebellion harshly, but others remembered what freedom felt like. They reached out to Hana. The humans sent down weapons, advanced communications equipment, and tactical advisors. They taught the Kelvins how to fight guerrilla warfare, how to sabotage Council infrastructure, how to make occupying their world too expensive for the Council to maintain. 3 weeks later, the Kelvins rose in rebellion. They attacked Council facilities, freed political prisoners, and declared independence. When Council peacekeeping forces arrived to crush the rebellion, they found themselves fighting an enemy that melted away and struck from unexpected directions. The Council sent more troops. The Kelvins retreated into their mountains and fought on. Human ships supplied them from orbit, staying hidden from Council sensors. The war on Kelvin Prime dragged on for months. Meanwhile, humanity contacted other species. The Torvin clans, who had been conquered 3 centuries ago, the Reshka Collective, whose worlds provided food for half the Council, the independent colonies on the frontier, who paid crushing taxes to Council worlds. Everywhere humans went, they offered the same thing: weapons, knowledge, and hope. Some species refused, too afraid of Council retribution, but many others accepted. Within a year, dozens of rebellions erupted across Council space. Sora continued her propaganda broadcasts. She had become famous throughout the galaxy. Her messages reached worlds the humans couldn't physically visit. She told the story of Earth's fall, showed proof of Council crimes, and encouraged resistance. The Council wants you to believe they're invincible, Sora said in one broadcast. They want you to think that fighting back is suicide. But look at humanity. They tried to exterminate us. We survived. We fought back. We're winning. If we can do it, so can you. The Council tried to jam her broadcasts, but human communication technology was too advanced. Sora's voice reached into every corner of Council space. On 1,000 worlds, people heard her words and began to question their rulers. Vexthun, still the dominant voice on the Council, demanded total war. He wanted to crush every rebellion, execute every human, and restore Council authority through overwhelming force. The more moderate councillors hesitated, but Vexthun bullied them into compliance. He declared himself Supreme Director, effectively making himself dictator. Council democracy, such as it was, ended. Vexthun began deploying the military in ways the Council had never done before. He authorized collective punishments against rebellious worlds. He used forbidden weapons that violated the Council's own laws. This backfired spectacularly. Species that had been neutral turned against the Council. The moderate councilors, horrified by Vexthun's tactics, began organizing against him. The Council split into factions: loyalists who supported Vexthun, and reformists who wanted to end the wars and negotiate. The galaxy descended into chaos. Trade routes collapsed. Neutral species closed their borders. Pirates and criminals took advantage of the disorder. What had been the most stable period in galactic history dissolved into anarchy. Through it all, human ships moved like ghosts. They appeared where needed most, supplied rebellions, evacuated refugees, and struck at Council supply lines. Jiho became famous as the Ghost Admiral, appearing and disappearing in ways Council forces couldn't predict or counter. Admiral Minho coordinated everything from a mobile command base. The humans had abandoned their asteroid hideouts, turning their entire civilization into a nomadic fleet. They were harder to track this way, and it allowed them to respond quickly to opportunities. "We're winning," General Hyun said at one strategy meeting. "The Council is crumbling." "We're surviving," Minho corrected. But Suman was right. "We can't beat them through force alone. We have to build something better." Yunji had been working on that. She proposed creating a new alliance, something to replace the Council. An organization where every species had equal say, regardless of their military power or technological level. "Call it the Free Systems Alliance," Yunji suggested. "Any world that rejects Council authority can join. We pool resources, share technology, and defend each other." Hana loved the idea. She began traveling to liberated worlds, negotiating the terms of the alliance. It was slow work. Different species had different needs and cultures, but gradually the alliance took shape. 50 systems joined in the first month. Former Council clients who saw a chance for real independence. Frontier colonies tired of Council exploitation. Even some Council worlds whose populations had turned against Vexthun's regime. Within a year, 300 systems had joined the Free Systems Alliance. They created a parliament where every member world had representatives. They established mutual defense treaties. They began sharing technology and resources. The Council tried to crush the alliance, but they were fighting too many wars on too many fronts. Every time they concentrated forces to attack one world, 3 others would rebel. It was death by 1,000 cuts. Vexthun became increasingly desperate. He authorized attacks on civilian targets, hoping to terrorize populations into submission. He executed captured rebels publicly. He threatened to use planet-killing weapons against Alliance worlds. This was his final mistake. When word spread that Vexthun was considering genocide again, even his loyalists began to desert him. Council officers refused orders. Council worlds declared neutrality. The reformist councilors organized a vote to remove him from power. Vexthun responded by trying to seize total control. He sent troops to arrest the reformist councilors. Civil war erupted on the Council's capital world. The galactic government tore itself apart. 20 years after the fall of Earth, the Galactic Council collapsed. Different factions claimed legitimacy. Council territory fractured into dozens of successor states. The organization that had ruled the galaxy for millennia was gone. Minho received reports of the Council's fall aboard his command ship. He was 43 years old now, gray showing in his hair. He had spent his entire adult life fighting this war. "Is it over?" someone asked. Minho looked out at the stars. The galaxy was in chaos. Trillions had died in the wars. Entire sectors lay in ruins. And humanity, the species that had catalyzed this revolution, numbered fewer than 12 million souls spread across 100 ships. "No," Minho said quietly. "Now comes the hard part. Now we have to build something better." The trial of Vexthun took place aboard Neutral Station Sigma, a space platform administered by species that had stayed out of the wars. Security was heavy. Representatives from 300 worlds attended. The humans sent Nari, Admiral Minho's daughter, as their observer. Nari was 25 years old. She had been born during the wars, aboard a human ship fleeing from Council forces. She had never known peace. But she understood diplomacy in ways her father's generation did not. Where they saw enemies and allies, she saw potential for something new. Vexthun stood in a containment field at the center of the chamber. He looked old and tired. His species aged differently than humans, but even so, the years had not been kind. He had been captured 6 months ago when his last loyal forces surrendered. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Prosecutors presented evidence of Vexthun's crimes. The fabricated data used to condemn humanity, orders for Earth's destruction, authorization for genocide against other species. The Council had marked 17 different species for preventive extinction over the centuries. Humanity had just been the most recent, survivors testified. A Kelvin woman described watching her family die in Council bombardments. A Torvan elder spoke about 3 centuries of occupation. And then there were the humans. Admiral Minho was invited to give a victim statement. He flew to the station and sat in the witness area, but when his turn came, he simply shook his head. "I have nothing to say to him," Minho said. "He's not worth my words," instead Sora testified. She was 30 now, famous throughout the galaxy as the voice of the resistance. She stood before the judges and spoke calmly. "Vexthun believes he was protecting galactic stability," Sora said. "He saw humanity as a threat and decided we should die. He was wrong about us, but that's not the real crime. The real crime is that he thought he had the right to make that decision at all." She looked directly at Vexthun. "You played God with entire species. You decided who deserved to live and who should die. And you did it with such certainty, such arrogance that you never questioned whether you might be wrong." Vexthun finally spoke in his own defense. "I did what was necessary. Humanity was dangerous. They proved it by tearing down the Council. Look at the chaos they created. We created chaos." Sora laughed bitterly. "You destroyed our world. You killed 8 billion people. And you're surprised we fought back? You're surprised other species joined us? The Council maintained order for thousands of years," Vexthun insisted. "Without us, the galaxy will descend into barbarism." "Then let it," Sora replied. "Better barbarism than the order of genocidal tyrants." The judges deliberated for 2 days. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. The sentence was life imprisonment on a prison colony. No possibility of release. They didn't execute him. The new galactic community wanted to be better than the Council had been. Vexthun was led away. He would spend the rest of his life among the species he had tried to exterminate, guarded by the civilizations he had tried to crush. But the trial was just one small piece of a much larger puzzle. The real work was rebuilding. Yunji, now 53 years old, led the reconstruction initiative. She traveled constantly, visiting worlds devastated by the wars. Some places had been bombed into ruins. Others had collapsed economically when trade routes closed. Refugees numbered in the hundreds of billions. "We need a new government structure," Yunji said at the first meeting of what would become the Galactic Parliament. Not a council of the powerful, a parliament where every species has equal representation. This was controversial. Large, powerful species didn't want to have the same voting power as small frontier colonies. But Yunji was firm. The council fell because it concentrated power in the hands of a few. "We won't make that mistake again." The debate lasted months. Finally, they reached a compromise. A parliament with representatives from every member world. Weighted by population but with minimums to ensure small species had a voice. Major decisions required not just a majority vote, but also approval from a majority of member species. It was messy and slow, but it was also fair. And slowly worlds began to join. Some species remained skeptical of humanity. They had watched humans wage war for 20 years. They had seen human weapons devastate Council fleets. They feared human dominance in the new order. Nari worked to address these fears. She traveled extensively, meeting with leaders from worlds that had been neutral during the wars. She was honest about human capabilities, but also about human limitations. "We're 12 million people spread across 100 ships," Nari told one gathering of nervous planetary governors. "We have advanced weapons, yes, but we don't have the numbers to dominate anyone. We're just trying to survive like everyone else." She proposed that no species, including humanity, could have more than 10% of seats in the parliament. This eased fears of human control. Other safeguards were added. No military forces could be stationed at parliament headquarters. Decisions about war required approval from 3/4 of member species. Trust built slowly, agreement by agreement, treaty by treaty. Meanwhile, Earth was being restored. The planet had been dead for 70 years, its surface scorched and poisoned. But human and alien scientists worked together on terraforming. They cleaned the oceans. They rebuilt the atmosphere. They planted forests using genetic samples preserved by survivors. It would take centuries for Earth to fully recover. But life was returning. Do-Yun, the original captain who had witnessed the fall, was still alive at 92. Advanced medicine kept him functioning, though he moved slowly and tired easily. He returned to Earth for the first time in 7 decades when the initial restoration was complete. He stood in what had been a city once. Now it was grassland with young trees dotting the landscape. The sky was blue again. Breathable air, natural weather, birdsong from species released from genetic storage. "We did it," Do-Yun said softly. Nari stood beside him. She had brought him here to see the progress. "Not yet," Nari replied, "but we're getting there." Do-Yun walked to a memorial wall built on the site of an old city center. 8 billion names were engraved on black stone, everyone who died in the fall. He found his family's names. His parents, his siblings, his friends, all gone. "I used to dream about revenge," Do-Yun said. "For 50 years all I wanted was to make them hurt like they hurt us." "Did we?" Nari asked. "Did we get revenge?" Do-Yun thought about it. The council was gone. Vexton was in prison. Humanity had survived and helped reshape the galaxy. But 8 billion people were still dead. Earth was still scarred. The pain would never fully heal. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe revenge isn't something you get. Maybe it's just something you survive." Nari looked up at the sky. Ships from a dozen species passed overhead, traveling freely through a system that was finally at peace. "The Galactic Parliament voted last week. Earth is now neutral territory. No weapons will ever orbit this world again. It's going to be a memorial, a school, a reminder." "A reminder of what?" Do-Yun asked. "Of what hate can destroy," Nari said, "and what hope can rebuild." Over the following years, the Galactic Parliament grew stronger. More species joined. Economic cooperation replaced exploitation. Species shared technology freely. Conflicts were resolved through negotiation rather than war. The Free Systems Alliance became the foundation of this new order. The principles Unji had established, equality, representation, mutual defense, became the standard. Humanity's population slowly grew. 12 million became 15 million, then 20 million. They were no longer refugees hiding in asteroids. They had colonies on new worlds, stations in friendly systems, and Earth slowly healing beneath their care. Sora continued her work, now as a historian and educator. She created a comprehensive record of the Council era, the fall, the wars, and the rebuilding. Her documentaries were watched on thousands of worlds. She made sure nobody would forget what had happened. The Price of Hubris, she called her series. It showed both the Council's crimes and humanity's response. She didn't shy away from the violence humans had committed. The rebellions they sparked killed trillions. The wars devastated countless worlds. "We're not heroes," Sora said in her final documentary. "We're survivors who became fighters, who then became builders. We did terrible things because terrible things were done to us. The question isn't whether we were right. The question is whether we can be better." Do-Yun died at the age of 97, surrounded by family in a small house on restored Earth. Nari held his hand as he passed. His last words were simple. "We made it. We actually made it." Admiral Minho retired at 65. He had spent 42 years in military service, most of it in active combat. He settled on Earth in a quiet valley far from the memorial sites. He wanted peace, but he still attended parliament sessions when invited. His voice carried weight. When younger species talked about military solutions to problems, Minho would remind them of the cost. "I've killed thousands of people," Minho said once. "Maybe hundreds of thousands if you count all the orders I gave. I did it because I thought I had no choice. Maybe I was right. Maybe I wasn't. But I know this. War should always be the last option, not the first." The galaxy learned from humanity's example. Not the example of their weapons or their vengeance, but the example of their persistence. When faced with extinction, they survived.